All right, so let me start this off with I have no script here, okay? There is no script, and I very rarely ever do that because normally I get very distracted. But you could already see the title. Um, I need to get a video out there as much as I love Alice posting boobs in in the community post is only going to keep my community entertained for so long. Uh I'm partially joking, of course. But anyway, yeah, title of the video, Trunks is the most overrated fucking character in Dragon Ball. I'm I, I'm sorry. No, I'm not sorry actually. Um and I'm talking about Future Trunks specifically. And let me put it out there. I'm not talking about Dragon Ball Super. I mean, before Dragon Ball Super came out and wrote the atrocious Goku Black arc. Actually, the beginning of the Goku Black arc was freaking goaded. Once we got back into time travel, that's when everything went downhill. But even back in Dragon Ball Z, Future Trunks was just. I mean, obviously, I liked him as a kid, but now that I'm older, and I have more creative thinking, and I'm liking more than just Dragon Ball Z. uh I've become more critical of the franchise as I've gotten older. And one of the things is I don't actually think Trunks is that cool. So, like I said, I have no script, but I have like three main points in my head on why I think he's kind of overrated. But let's go over the two reasons why I understand he's so liked. And honestly, they're two reasons that I like as well. So, I have no problem talking about it. The first is Trunks' intro. When Trunks first appeared, we were like, who's this guy? I mean, he's got the fit, but, who is he? And then he drops the Goku's is not the only Super Saiyan, not even close, or something like that. And then he, slices and dices Frieza, which Goku just had a 4-hour battle with. It's like, huh? Who is this man? How did he slice and dice Frieza? And the way he did it too is just, oh man, gang sign, burning attack. That's really cool. The second is his design. My favorite design is the one from the BoJack slash Broly movie. When it came to Dragon Ball Z, Trunks just always looked great. Actually, now that I think about it, I think his armor is my least favorite look. He just doesn't rock the armor like everything else. But I mean, it looks fine with the long hair, but the short hair, that ain't it, chief. That ain't it for me. But now that I've inadvertently added the second thing, the third thing that I meant to say earlier is the history of Trunks. Trunks, for certain, has the best written backstory, or at the very least, the most interesting, in the whole Dragon Ball cast. Just period. I don't think there's anyone going to really argue that. No one else really has a backstory like Trunks. Like, Goku has one now, but that was written years later, and it's been retconned to like, I don't know, 3 times now, right? 3 times? And then now he had a wish on the Dragon Balls, which literally gave him plot armor. I just, I don't know, man. I don't know. Uh, it, he just has the best backstory. But is it really that good? I'm gonna get into that in just a moment. But let me give you a quick a history of Trunks. After Trunks shows up and Slice and Dices Frieza, we really don't know who he is. He's kind of playing around the bush about being hit on by his mom. If you watch TFS at least. Uh as he's waiting for Goku. And Goku shows up late. And this is the first mistake Trunks makes. And it's part of the reason I think Trunks is kind of overrated. Um Here's the thing. Dragon Ball Z is a battle showing. Okay? If you are not strong intelligent or have something special about you, you're kind of trash. Like, imagine if Vegeta just didn't fight people, right? Imagine if Vegeta never went Super Saiyan. You know, would you really think he's that cool? Like, would you really? I mean, early on, sure, he's pretty cool, but Trunks has like no wins under his belt, right? Goku shows up, Goku blocks his sword one finger. He gives them the wrong time for the heart virus. Well, I guess that's not entirely his fault. He's the whole reason the present timeline slash future timeline happens. However, you know, he couldn't have given them a photo or described what the androids look like, right? He shows up and he's like, "Those aren't the right androids." Also, and he also intervened with Frieza, which was really cool. But like, Goku was going to instant transmission anyways. He interfered with the timeline for no reason. He had no reason to do that at all. There was nothing there. He comes back and then, he's like, if they set that android free, it'll be the end of all of us, which I can't take seriously because it's a meme, but it was pretty cool at the time. And I mean, it made sense why he had a freaking mental breakdown upon seeing the teenagers. And then Vegeta had at least a little bit of a back and forth at 18. 18 just broke his sword by lifting her arm and then like threw him into Vegeta to knock his ass unconscious. Or the other way around. It was one of the two. Like I said, I don't have a script for this. I'm literally just sitting here staring at a black screen and just freestyling. I guess you could say it. Uh and then after that, Trunks goes in the time chamber with his daddy. Pause. And you know, they really don't even train for that long. Like, or like not that they don't train for long. They don't really train together. In Super, it was retcon that the only reason Vegeta found Super Vegeta was because of Trunks. But if they were truly training together, right, then Vegeta should have known that Trunks should have known that Vegeta knew about Grade 3, but didn't. Trunks genuinely believed he was stronger than his father, so I find it hard to believe they didn't train together. That's not Trunks' fault, though. That's Vegeta's fault, more than likely. And then, yeah, there's the Cell fight. Trunks blasts his father and then goes and attacks Cell. Like, people blame Vegeta for Cell reaching his imperfect form, but it's also Trunks' fault. Trunks could have, he was right there in front of Android 18. He could have just blasted her right there, and he would have had no remorse doing it. He also let Cell get away, and then he gets to fight Cell in his perfect form because his father's a dumbass. And then he goes Grade 3, which looks cool, but he quickly realizes that it's a freaking useless transformation and gives up. Like, he doesn't even try to fight. He just literally tells Cell to kill him because he doesn't have the will to fight anymore. Like, what the fuck, Trunks? What the hell? Like, do the half Saiyans just don't give a fuck if people die? Gohan does the same thing later. He's like, I don't want to fight you anymore, even though you nearly killed Piccolo, absorbed hundreds of thousands of people. You're, you know, gonna beat the shit out of my dad. Like, this shit must be genetic. That shit has to be genetic. But after that, Trunks does nothing in the Cell games. He does nothing in the Cell games but die. Dying is the most he contributes to the Cell game saga, where Vegeta blasts Cell and gets his ass kicked, and then Gohan gets the victory. And then we see Trunks go back to his timeline, defeat the androids and Cell. But honestly, like, it's not even that impressive because, that's like if Buu Saga Super Saiyan 3 Goku went back and one-shotted Frieza. Like, you know, or to be more accurate, Goku goes back and one-shot Cell, the previous villain. It's like, it's not that impressive killing the last arc's villain. I mean, I guess it depends, how you compared to them before, but, Trunks was already decently strong, you know, but yeah, like, he doesn't contribute anything. That's the biggest problem with Trunks is after he gives the heart virus, if you remove Trunks from the story, what changes? What does Trunks specifically provide to the story? He tells them that they got the wrong androids, but they would have figured that out eventually anyways by, 17 and 18 blowing shit up. He didn't need to kill Frieza. Goku was going to do that. Uh he didn't contribute any to stopping Cell. Vegeta more than likely would have discovered the Super Saiyan grades by himself regardless because he already had an idea in his head of how to do so. Or at least that's what's implied. That's how I always envisioned it. He didn't stop Cell. He didn't help defeat the Cell Juniors. He just died. So, and going back in time doesn't change his timeline. So, what does him going back in time contribute to the story? We can just be like, oh, well, Trunks eventually defeated the androids. Or hell, we could have just said that, when Trunks appeared in the past, he could have been like, yeah, we eventually defeated the androids, but they caused a lot of irreversible damage. And, we were hoping to reverse time. And then, Trunks would go back to the future and we can just say time reset, right? Now, that'd be kind of sucky. That situation would suck, but you should get what I'm understanding. Trunks doesn't provide anything in the main story. The one cool thing he does is kill Frieza. And then for the rest of the series, he's being clowned on. So I honestly don't understand what's so cool. And as for the movies are irrelevant because you could literally erase Trunks from existence and still put him in the movies because the movies are their own thing. Right? Like BoJack Unbound takes place after the Cell Saga and Trunks is still there. So it doesn't matter. It does not matter. Tapion has Trunks' sword. Like he just doesn't provide anything to the story. And so, and he doesn't win any fights aside from Frieza, which was the last arc's villain. Although, after he's also the strongest villain by far, a 4-hour fight versus a 1-hour fight with Vegeta. It excuse me. I just feel that Trunks does not provide anything to the story. He doesn't have any cool moments other than slicing and dicing Frieza. And while he looks cool, if he was removed from the story, I don't think it would have been any better or worse. That's, I guess, the other thing he provides to the story, if you want to stretch it, is he helps develop Vegeta's character. But if a character's whole existence amounts to character development for someone else, why does it matter? We could have just done. We could have had Bulma killed, right? Cell could have. Bulma could have been there watching the fight, right? And then he just blasts the city and killed Bulma and Kid Trunks, and then Vegeta would, fucking snap and try to kill Cell, realizing that he needs them in his life. And debatably, that would have been even more dramatic, like more traumatic. That's just my opinion. But that's just talking about the original anime slash manga. Let's talk about the history of Trunks. We're not talking about the manga because the manga version is infinitely uh inferior to the anime movie special. So, assuming that you know, if we assume that you were watching History of Trunks right after Trunks defeated Frieza, then you really don't know anything about Trunks. Uh, and unfortunately, the history of Trunks doesn't make me think about Trunks. Is it emotional? Yeah, I think History of Trunks is emotionally the best. But let me ask you something, and I want you to really think about this. Is Trunks' Super Saiyan scene emotional because of how it's played? Or is it emotional because a character we already beloved is dying in such a traumatic way? When I think of the history of Trunks, I think of the time Gohan lost his arm. I think of the time Gohan sacrificed himself and had a badass fight with the androids. I think of Trunks crying over Gohan, who we feel just as bad for under the rain. If we replaced Gohan with with a random character that we don't know, just like a random mentor who appeared in the future, or hell, like even someone like Yamcha or Krillin, someone like them, would we have cared? And I think for a lot of people, we really wouldn't have. Um, if I try to imagine the history of Trunks without Gohan, I just don't think I'd be interested. And this could just be a me thing, but future Gohan just kind of carries the movie. Pretty much every scene that Trunks is in up until Gohan dies, Gohan is there. And if it's not Gohan, it's Bulma, right? And then once again after Gohan dies, Trunks is like, "Oh, time for me to finally get my run back," and then just like the rest of the series, gets fucking clowned on. Uh, hell, except I kind of feel bad for him that time because not only did he get his ass kicked, it was so humiliating. Like his punches weren't even making the move. They had his chin on their fucking shoe. Like that was actually a real. I'll give Trunk that fight scene was actually entertaining. Uh, I actually understood that one, but I just don't think the history of Trunks would be nearly as beloved if it wasn't for future Gohan. Again, this is my opinion, but yeah, I just don't think that the history of Trunks would be very good without Gohan. And I don't think Trunks does anything outside of killing Frieza and having the drip. He is the drink after all. I don't think he's very cool. Like he doesn't do anything when you stop and like actually think about it. You know, the mo and again, uh the and a lot of problems happen because Trunks is inexperienced, right? I brought it up earlier. Trunks should have just, instead of chasing after Cell, he could have just turned around and blasted 18 at point blank. Or while Vegeta and Cell were fighting, he could have, looked for the androids. Don't get it. And how did he not know Vegeta was going to let him go? Like, he's so self conscious of his pride, he didn't go all out, or what he thought was all out. I don't know. I like Trunks, but I wouldn't even say he's in my top 5. He might not even be in my top 10 favorite characters. I think he has the best backstory, but that's because the rest of characters don't really have one. They just kind of appear one day, you know. Uh what is with Vegeta's bloodline and being disappointments? Looking at you, fraud Jito.